Morning. We are starting our class today on project audit. Now, what are the benefit of project audits? Project audits clarify performance, cost, and schedule relationships. Means project audit, if you are not auditing something, then you will not know whether the performance is equal to, greater than, or more than the actual relationship. That is why you have to identify the not only the present but the future opportunities for improvement. We have to evaluate performance of the project team. Now, in order to evaluate performance of the project team, mm, we have to check on how they are performing, and then we have to check their performance with the standard performance that was expected of them, and then report on the deviations or say overachievements, if any, and they inform client of the status of the projects. The client generally are the stakeholders or the investors of the project. They actually engage in the team to perform the project audit. So, in order to check the whether the investments are correct or not, and whether the reporting of the project managers regarding the advancement of the project or fulfillment of the project to a certain stage is correct or not, and it also reconfirms feasibility of a commitment to the project of all the people, starting from the project manager to the other members in the project. Now, project audit can be done in the initial stage also. Identify the objectives of the project. What are the main core objectives or the outcomes of that particular project. Write the project charter. Project charter means the project total scheduling and all that. Get sign off on the project charter. Work breakdown charter means the project schedule. It includes the work breakdown structure, the workflow diagram, and all that. The rate of diagrams and everything, and get sign off on the project charter. Get that thing signed by the project manager, so that they have a particular schedule, strict plan to follow, and in no cases can they deviate from those particular plans, even if they want to. Now, we also have the project planning phase. Audit is first done on the initiation phase, then on the planning phase. Now, in order to carry out audit on the planning phase, you have to perform audit on the project management team, create one, establish the project deliverables. What are the deliverables of the deliverables of the project, or the outcomes of the project, and write a scope statement on the scope of that project. And then this is audited, means this is checked for and verified for actually achievable targets or inachievable, or whether the things are achievable or not. Now, in the planning phase, we have to determine a project budget. Now, this is what is the most important. The audit thing comes in. That is making of that budget and checking that particular budget, that whether it has incorporated. See, a project will start in 1 year and will say end in another year. So it has to be a long-term budget, and it has to incorporate things such as inflation and certain other objectives that might affect the project. And so we have to check if these have been included into the project, if all the necessary and relevant elements have been included in the project, and no unnecessary elements or irrelevant items have been included in the budget, and so on. We have to distinguish between project activities. Now, distinguish whatever the activities that are directly related to the project, have they been included, and whether the activities that are not directly related to the project have been eliminated. Then we work out the schedule and audit that schedule for to achieve any perfection, and remove any extra appendages, if any, or extra add-ins, if any. Now, and you determine the special skills needed to complete the planned tasks. Determine the special skills needed to complete planned tasks means, if when we determine whether the people who have been hired or not, the audit company actually checks that whether the people hired or not have the necessary skills to complete the tasks that have been given to them. For example, cannot hire a civil engineer to perform the job of a mechanical engineer. You cannot hire a mechanical engineer to perform the job of an architect. So on. we need to know whether the roles that exist and the people who are being hired for that roles fit that role. Now we also have the execution phase. In the execution phase, we put together the project team. Now, under the project audit, the project team is also under a big scrutiny in the sense that the project team actually totally relies on the on actually put together the project actually checks whether the project team has been put correctly. People have the necessary skill sets, and people with necessary skill sets have been placed in the right place. Administer and guide the project team. The team administers means it actually acts as a guy. It sets up a guideline, or it ensures that the project team follows the guideline that have been set up during the planning stage. Conduct status review meetings. Status review meetings are very important because they actually determine the completion of the project at several stages during the project, and it checks on deviations in budget, in manpower, and on several other things during that period. Communicates the project information to the also communicates the project information to the stakeholders, and implements quality assurance measures. Also, quality added things are talked about in this session. Now, the controlling phase: measure the performance against the plan. This is another part other than the budget. Measuring the performance against the plan means whatever has been done and what was the standard. Evaluate the corrective measures. If there has been any deviation from the standard, does it need correction? Is it for the bad or is it for the good? For example, if there has been a deviation in the standard and the deviation is kept for deviation in the standard, and the deviation is for, say, the standard cost and the actual cost. Now, if the deviation is favorable or the standard cost is more than the actual cost, then there is no need for corrective action. But if, say, the standard cost is less than the actual cost and there is unfavorable variations, then you need to check for corrective measures. Now you have to manage the change request. You have to manage the change request means whether the change requests are viable or not. You might want to change your standard costing pattern, or you might want to change the method of working to save some standard costs, but to save on your cost. But you have to check whether those methods are feasible or not. Now, in the closing phase, you manage acceptance of project deliverables. What do you mean by project deliverables? What are the outcome of the particular project? And the documents of the lessons learned during the project, and the archive the project records for future reference. Now, what do you mind document lessons learned during the project? What are the learning outcomes of a particular project? Now, this is actually very necessary for performing projects of similar type in the future. We know every project is unique. So you are in the charge of a construction of a certain building. Now you have made some mistakes, you have made corrections during construction of that building. Now, during another any such project in any other place, you can take out those records, and you can check whether say it's a similar type of building, what corrections were required, what type of adjustments had been made. You can check that, and you can bring down your cost and time consumed on the next project. Now, in the closing phase, we have to formalize. It's a formalized procedure. The closing of the project should be formalized. You should release the project resources and write the final status report. You should formalize the closing of the project. Means the closing of the project is formalized. The project resources are released, like machineries, people, etc. They are all released from that particular project either into another project, or they are sent off. And the final status report means the project closure report is done and submitted to the investors or the project stakeholders. Now, project monitoring. It is consists of collecting, recording, and reporting information concerning any aspects of the project management. Now, collecting, recording, and reporting information. It collects, records, and reports information concerning various aspects of the project management. The data supplied by monitoring is to be evaluated and control parameters selected by the management. Now, when you are providing data to the management, it is actually they will be evaluated and compared with control parameters or certain standards to check whether we have achieved the specified targets. This is all for today. Thank you. We'll continue in the next session.